Okay, so everyone, I got a phone call and got a little cut off on this question, and then the rest of my video didn't work for the rest, so I'm kind of starting over on this one. So real quick about this one, we had discussed in class that this is actually decay because this amount is 3, and this negative exponent basically, well, not basically, it moves it into a fraction. So this is actually decay, and that, again, any point you can give me, if I make my table, is the y-intercept. So if x is 0, anything including a fraction to the 0 power is 1. And then you could get some other powers, or points if you want, because the first power, anything to the first power is itself, so it's about a third. If you want, that's not that helpful. But what I was saying is in another class, they wanted to use -1, and I know I'm not going in order here, but putting a -1 here will flip 1/3 back into 3, and then 3 to the first power, so it's about 3, not quite 3. And you can get a few more points, but as long as you have the y-intercept, I'm okay with that. You just got to go and connect through. Don't let it cross over the wall. Don't let it touch the wall. The asymptote is the more mathy word. All right, moving on to the next one. So the idea is on the next set of problems, I want you to write the function. So all of them are going to be in the form y equals a times b to the x. And as I shared with you guys in class, I've shown you how to go to your stat and make an L1 for x, an L2 for y, and then you could find any additional points. Some problems are efficient in using the calculator, but this is actually pretty fast, and I can do this really fast because my x's are going up by 1, and if you notice, you have your y-intercept, and you can also see your growth factor, what they're multiplying by, and they're always multiplying by 2. So what I can do is write my equation, y equals my y-intercept times 2 to the x power, and then I can just go to my calculator and type in whatever it would be if x were 16. So I just put a 16 in there, and I get 524,288. Okay, be careful. This is not 1, 2, 3, so don't multiply that by 2. So again, 524,288. The next one, again, I could go to L1, I could go to L2. If you are going to do that, don't include this data point. But what, again, I can see is my y-intercept is 1,000, and then I can see that this is always dividing by 2 or multiplying by a half, and I need the half number in there. So I can write my equation, y equals my y-intercept, what they're multiplying by, to the x power. And so now I can go to my calculator and put in 1,000. Here goes my half to the 7th for x, and I get 7.8125. Oops, sorry. All right, moving to the back. So here it gets a little tougher because now I'm missing a lot of points. I can still see my y-intercept, but what I realize now is I can actually see a new point, and this can be my new value, and if that's y, that's going to be x. And now I can put them into y equals a times b to the x. Here's y times a. B is what we'll be figuring it out, to the 5th power. And now I'll just work to get b alone. I'm going to divide by 60 first. So I'm just on my calculator. You can't see, but I'm taking 2.5 and divided by 60. And I get this really long decimal. So I'm just going to write down a few of those numbers. So here's that long decimal. And now what I'm going to do to get rid of the 5th power is I'm going to 5th root this really long decimal. I'm going to 5th root this, not what I wrote down. So I'm going to press 5 first, and then I'm going to press the math button, and I'm going to just choose this 5th option. And now what I can do is if I hit the second and the negative button, that will recall the most recent answer. And there's another way to do this, but this will work for all the calculators. And now I'm going to take this and round 529 to 530. So I've got my b, but remember, I want you to write the equation. So the equation is going to be 60 with this 0.530 to the x power. And now since I need to get so many numbers, I'm going to go to my y equals button and put that in. So let's see, 60.5, whoops, I'm already messing up, 60.5 0.530 to the x power. And now I'm going to go to my table. Now my table is in this auto mode. Yours still might be in the ask mode. If you hit second window, you might have ask highlighted, and then you can just type in 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can switch it back to auto, and then it will just automatically fill it for you. So what I'm going to do is just write these numbers down to 3 decimal places. So 1 on my calculator is just 31.8. 2 is the 16.854. 3 is 8.9. Let's see, 33. 4, I'm kind of out of room. I'm going to stick it right here, is 4.734. And the last one, I'm going to have no choice but to use the stat feature on my calculator. So I'm going to put this into L1, this into L2, because there's just no rhyme or reason to my points. I don't have the y-intercept, so I can't use this option. So what you can't see is I am putting these numbers in. So you just have to give me a moment. And you can be doing this too because it's your quiz. All right, I'm putting L2 in. And just go slow, make sure you're typing your numbers incorrectly. All right, there we go. So now I'm just going to press the stat button. I'm going to scroll over to calc. I'm pressing 0 for exponential. I have to hit enter 4 times, and there we go. So hopefully that looks about right. Okay, so let me just double check. 12. Yeah, okay. So writing this down, I've got y equals my a, which is rounded. I've got my b. Hopefully I didn't type anything incorrectly. I did go back and look and didn't notice it, to the x power. Okay? All right, so now in the next problem, I'm definitely going to have to use the regression feature on the calculator. So what I'm going to do right now that you can't see is I'm clearing out my lists, and I'm going to enter this data that you guys see. So again, I just want to make sure I enter things correctly. So it takes me a moment. Okay, so I've got my data in there. Again, I just want to check that all my values are correct. Okay, so I'm going to press Stat, Calc, choose that 0th option. And in class, somebody said that this value was going to be 379.99. I think that was just a mistake. It's supposed to be 379.92 equals my b, which rounds to 1.04 to the x power equals y. And now everything else says to use my model. So I'm going to use this here, I'm going to use it here and here. These points are not necessary anymore. So the first thing I want to know is, identify and explain the meaning of A and B. So I'm just going to explain it and let you write it down. So A is the beginning amount. This is the beginning value of the stock. B is the growth factor. It's the 1.04. But what I really am more interested in is that you have a rate of 4%, that this is, my stocks are growing by 4%. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this model to predict 2045. So from 2010 to 2045, that's a time span of 35 years. So again, when you take your quiz, always write down what you're about to type into your calculator, because if it's just a small calculator error, we can talk later and get those points. But if you have an answer with no work shown, I will not be revisiting you. Your answer has to match mine. So what I get is this amount. And since it's money, it is okay to round this to cents. So $14.99, and that'll stay at 20 cents, or round up to 20 cents. So, sorry, $1,499.20. And how long will it take for it to double? We said in class that we were just going to say this was 380, and when 380 doubles, it's 760. So again, writing my equation. And now I'm going to go to y1 and put in 760. I'm going to go to y2 and put in the other equation. And again, you can put these in any of the y's. It really doesn't matter. Okay. And now for my window, what I want to do is a minimum time of 0 always. Pick your X max, somewhere in between 20 and 30 is always good. My Y min, the least amount of money, I'm going to have a 0, and I need to get up to 760, so I'm going to go higher and go to 800. So here is my 760 line. Here comes my curve, my growth that is, and now I'm just going to hit second trace, choose that 5th option, just move that cursor closer over, hit enter 3 times, and I get about 17.678. And again, you have to put the full 3 decimals. Don't say about 17. In between 17 and 18, you will not get the points then. Okay? You can write this down and say about 17 and a half years after that, but not now. All right, the next part is in a second video because I was running out of time, so there will be a part 3.